As leaders, we need to take lessons out of every possible scenario that we can. In that spirit, this is the Michael Scott School of Leadership.
Just lead.
Let's make it really clear from the start. I'm a David Brent man, but there is so much more fodder in the Michael Scott Book of Leadership for us to use, so we'll go there. For those not in the know, Michael Scott is a fictional character who is the boss of the Dunder Mifflin paper company, as portrayed by Steve Carell in the American version of The Office. The comedy in the show is largely derived from Michael's incompetence as a leader, as much as he might cling to that world's best boss mug, tongue twister. So we can cling to that incompetence and really store it into our toolkit as things not to do for ourselves as leaders. But as the show develops and Michael is more humanized by generous writing, it's possible to see how Michael is actually sometimes a good leader and has real moments of good leadership. So I'm going to go through the good and the bad of Michael Scott, break it down and work out what we can actually take from these lessons in The Office. We cannot start the bad section of this video without talking about Toby Flenderson. Michael treats him like absolute shit. And as the leader, this is totally inappropriate. He's the head of HR and he tries to take it on the chin, but it's really tantamount to bullying in the workplace. More so, being the leader that's doing this behavior is really reflecting poorly on how others should behave in the office and really sets a very bad example. And this is made incredibly clear when Michael Scott eventually moves on from the office and others take his role and treat Toby exactly the same. Pam starts out as the receptionist on the show, which really puts her in the firing line for Michael's lewd comments or over-the-line jokes. When Pam's pulled into Michael's office so that he can fake fire her, something like that would have put Michael in court, or at the very least in the unemployment line, in any sort of real situation. Beyond this, the sexual innuendo and behaviour that Michael levels Pam's way is criminal. And for the boss to be setting that example in the office is an absolutely terrible look. On this channel in the past, I've discussed how you need to be part of the team to be an effective leader. Putting yourself out and front and separate and being really king of the hill is not really an appropriate way to get the best out of your team. But Michael Scott lives in the front and the center. He lives on that stage and needs to be the center of attention. And nothing shows this more when he rocks up to work with a burnt foot when he somehow gets it in his George Foreman grill, and he has to be the center of attention in that moment, even though he's got another employee that's rocking around the office with a concussion that is in far more dire straits than he himself is. One of the quickest ways to lose respect from your team is to treat your team differently based on who your favorites are. It creates a distasteful atmosphere in the team, and it means that your employees don't actually want to be there, making their performance drop. Michael exhibits this most clearly when two branches need to merge and they bring in other branch members into his office, and he treats them incredibly poorly. In just a number of days, he's able to get rid of most of them because they up and quit, move on, because Michael treats them so poorly because he's got his own favorites that he prefers over them. Managing and embracing diversity within your team needs to be handled with care. Creating a culture of inclusivity must be a priority for you as a leader. Michael shows many times, but particularly twice, how he is very bad at this. They have to do diversity training in one of the episodes, and his idea of diversity training is to run with famous faces for people to work out who each person in the room is based on the race or culture that they've got on their forehead. And they use stereotypes in order to understand who each of them are. Using stereotypes is not a good way of building a diverse culture within your team. Then there's also the time that Oscar is outed by the office as homosexual. It's clear on Michael's face that he is pained and struggling with the idea that Oscar is gay. Then to take that a step further, he then sexually assaults Oscar, which Again, totally inappropriate. There are some tasks that need to be done by the boss and no one else in the team. These are typically the HR-driven tasks. They should be done by the boss because they've got the HR insights into their team that other people below them just simply don't have. Michael does this incredibly poorly when he's told that he needs to pick a new health plan for his team. He really struggles with it because he doesn't want to let anyone in his team down and have them miss out on some benefits that they might otherwise be able to have if he picks a certain plan. So in order to avoid it completely, he handballs it to Dwight, who in classic authoritarian style just picks the plan that he thinks he should pick, and it turns out to be actually a terrible plan for the business. This causes further anger and a further rift within the team, and it would have been handled much better if Michael had just used his insights as their boss and his HR knowledge of his team in order to pick the best plan on balance for his team. This is that part of the video where you like and subscribe because you've liked what I've been doing and you want to see more. Well, there's enough of that. Let's get back to regular programming. There is plenty of bad from Michael in this show, and I couldn't really keep going through it all, otherwise this video would go on forever. But just rest assured, next time you watch an episode of The Office and just look at his leadership style, you're going to find things not to do and to keep out of your own leadership style when you go back to The Office. But with all this bad, there is some good. Let's have a look at some of the things that Michael does really well. Michael genuinely cares for his team. When I'm hiring new leaders for my team, I try and look for instances where they've shown care. In the interview process, I ask them specific questions to really work out how they react to others and how they work with others. Because that genuine care is really hard to teach. So having that attribute already is so important to new leaders. This is shown really clearly in The Office in one of the last moments of the show, when Michael comes back, even though he's left the organization, comes back to be Dwight's best man at his wedding. It shows that he hasn't forgotten about them and that he has genuine care for who they are and what they're up to and the successes in their life. You need to invest in your team. You need to pump them up when they deserve it and give them guidance when they need it. Investing emotionally in your team shows them that you're interested in them succeeding. And it means they're going to perform potentially better for you because of that investment. Michael shows this really clearly at Pam's art show. She's out on a limb here, doing something that's a little bit out of her comfort zone and putting on an art gallery for her artwork. Not many people rock up, and those that do are quite critical of what she's produced. But when Michael's there, he shows real care and investment in what she's produced. He tells her that he's incredibly proud of what she's done. And he buys her artwork to put it up in the office as a symbol for his investment and the team that he's growing within that office. Coaching your team will unlock their ability to grow and develop, and it will show that you're invested in their development. Michael does this surprisingly well. He takes Ryan under his wing in the first season and shows him the ropes and guides him in how and why he should be doing things. Ryan really resists this in the first season, but ultimately he has to be thankful for the guidance and direction that Michael actually provides throughout the course of the show for him. He also shows this later in the series when he goes on a sales call with Andy. Andy's trying to prove himself and goes too hard, too quick, and ends up really ruining the sale. But then Michael's able to take over and through example, show Andy how to be a better salesman and really engage the customer to ensure the outcome is what is needed. You can operate with confidence if you know what your team should be doing. And you know what your team should be doing if you know the business really well. Michael might be bad at a lot of things, but one thing he knows well is paper. And this is shown really clearly when he up and leaves Dunder Mifflin and starts his own paper company. When he starts his own paper company, he has the inside knowledge and the inside workings of how paper is done and how paper sales is done, that he's able to undercut Dunder Mifflin and put the fear of God into them that he's going to run them out of business. In doing so, Dunder Mifflin freak out, buy him out, and then give all his employees their jobs back so that they just rehired by Dunder Mifflin. If he didn't know paper well, he wouldn't have been able to stumble accidentally into this scenario. Michael has a lot of lessons to teach us in his book of leadership. But as leaders, we need to be keeping our eyes open on the leaders around us, looking at their bad traits and their good traits. What are we going to put into our toolkit and what are we going to take out? You can see what I mean by clicking this link right here.